Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever F1. That might have been the most ridiculous free practice session we've ever had. 4 red flags, I think 37 minutes of the session under a red flag. It was absolutely ridiculous. We had the track was literally on fire. Literally on fire. We've got Jack Doohan on the wall. We've got Fernando Alonso beaching his car. We've got Isaac Hadjar actually finishing in the third fastest in the second practice. So it was an absolute bizarre day in Formula One. And I'll tell you what, if we're off to this kind of start, then I think we should have a very interesting weekend ahead. Coming up, though, we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that actually happened in the free practice, as well as what they might mean. Very worrying signs for Jack Doohan, who is coming under a lot of pressure coming into this weekend and putting in the wall, and yeah, basically, that's a big repair to try and get him ready for the rest of the weekend. That could be the end potentially if he doesn't perform for him at Alpine. We're also going to talk a little bit about Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen, a very interesting comparison of the two in their first day as co-drive or co-teammates, basically. We're going to be talking a little bit about the classifications of the two practices, as well as kind of what we might be able to expect over the weekend, because we haven't got a massive amount of information from those free practices, but a little bit of things you can sort of read in. And Liam Lawson looking very comfortable in that V car, which is really good to see, I think. But I think the person summing up the best was Charles Leclerc of the team area, saying it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I've had enough of this session, and fair enough. First things first, Jack Doohan, and I like Jack Doohan. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's I really want him to succeed. But he is now had a Formula One season where he qualified 20th in his debut last year in Abu Dhabi, finished 15th, and then this year, so outside the points, in the best performing non sort of mid-tier car in that Alpine. Then he crashed in Australia. He caused a collision with Bortoleto in China, received 2 different penalties, and now he's put in the wall in the second practice session on the first day of China. So, it's a lot of pressure heating up for Jack Doohan, and when you've got Flavio Briatore in the team who says very, very quite simply, if this driver isn't bringing results, I will change him. We'll change him, basically, is what he had to say. So Jack Doohan's not going to give him a lot of time in this Alpine to perform, and yes, you're in Alpine, so you're not expected to podium and the likes of that, but they are a team that did get a 2-3 last year. They are a team that is expected to challenge for points. Not lots of points, but they are expected to challenge for points. The 22-year-old at the moment doesn't look like he's going to be anywhere near challenging for points, and I think we might see him get the hook if he doesn't perform over the rest of the weekend. Franco Colapinto is in the wings. That's the big rumor at the moment that they potentially could bring him in very, very quickly for Jack Doohan. So he's not going to get a lot of time, and if they can get a car ready and he can put himself in a decent qualifying tomorrow and get a good racing on Sunday, that could save his career. But I fear another DNF, another 20th, and that could very well be the end for Jack Doohan. And again, it'll be sad because I think he's a talented driver. He just hasn't had a particularly good time, and I think he's had a bit of a weird transition. Getting that race towards the end of last year didn't really go well. Now, not off to a good start either. Then we have this. It's all happening, isn't it? It's all happening, and as I said, the most ridiculous free practice. So basically what's happening is that with all the sparks flying from underneath the cars, very dry grass at the moment, and high winds meant that some of the sparks were actually being blown into the grass and causing fires. We actually had 2 different red flags because of the fires over there. Then Fernando Alonso decided to beach his car and had to jump out of their best to get rid of that. So, yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, that was basically your summary of the practice session. Doohan goes into the wall, red flag. Grass catches fire, red flag. Alonso in the gravel, red flag. Grass on fire again, red flag. It was red flag central. In fact, there's the most red flags there's ever been in Formula One history in a race is 3, and there were 4 red flags in this session. So absolutely bonkers, really. But the main thing is what the classifications were. So this was the first session. George Russell fastest there. The 2 Ferraris right up there. 2 Red Bulls. Fernando Alonso. Not too many sort of surprises, really. That looked pretty sort of standard, really, in terms of the main teams up there. There were two Williams looking pretty good. Liam Lawson had a difficult first session, but bounced back quite nicely in the second session. This was the fastest in FP2. And there were some laps completed, in fairness. I think Piastri completed 13. I think the most that was completed was about 14. Jack Doohan managed just 4 before putting in the wall, and he finished T20. But Isaac Hadjar managed to get himself up there. So this is what the classification looked like in that second practice session. Now, very, very difficult to really read a lot into it. Kimi Antonelli down in 16th, for example. Yuki Tsunoda down in 18th. He did manage 12 laps, so it wasn't the case he didn't really get out there a lot. So, and that's why he's got so few laps. He was out there. So that might be a little bit of cause for concern, but shout out to the V-Cobs. Isaac Hadjar with third there, and Liam Lawson up there in 5th. So good to see Lawson managed to get control of that car nice and quickly in that second practice session. Max Verstappen currently sitting down at 8th, for example. The two Ferraris floating in there, thereabouts. The McLaren's very, very strong, as you kind of expect. So it's difficult to sort of predict what we got going into qualifying tomorrow, because we didn't get a lot of couldn't get a lot of time in that practice session. So tomorrow, obviously, we'll get a bit more, and then we'll see what happens in quali, which hopefully I'm thinking which should be quite a competitive quali, and hopefully we'll see a lot of different things happening. Something that's very interesting, though, is that Formula One released this graphic, very low quality, unfortunately, but it was basically during the first practice session, they did a lap time analysis between Max Verstappen, Yuki Tsunoda, who were neck and neck there in that first practice, finishing 5 and 6. And what's very interesting is you look, for example, at their driving style and the likes of that, and where they are, and very, very similar. And people basically sort of saying that this is why they've backed Yuki, because he can drive in a similar style and he can drive the car in a similar way that Max Verstappen can, and that's why he's kind of being backed to try and get the most out of this Red Bull and start scoring points. Whether the Red Bull itself is actually got enough to be contending at the moment, we'll wait and see. I mean, in theory, it's got enough to score points. That I think we know. We might not necessarily be able to compete with McLaren's, maybe compete with the Mercedes or even the Ferraris. The Ferraris have a good time, but it should be in the mix. Should be faster than your Aston Martins and the likes of that. It should be a lot faster than your Williams and the likes of that. And that was kind of the problem with Liam Lawson, is that he just wasn't featuring at all, even within the mid-tier teams, let alone your top teams. So big qualifying coming up for Yuki Tsunoda tomorrow. If he can go and get a really good stint, and then they'll be able to justify. However, if Liam Lawson, for example, goes and out-qualifies him tomorrow, then it becomes quite tricky, and then it becomes quite an interesting situation that they're going to have to sort of discuss with regards to, did they pull the trigger too early? But the thing is, Yuki Tsunoda is going to get the backing anyway, so the damage has already been done. All that Liam Lawson needs to do now, for his point of view, is to continue trying to prove that he should have gotten more time. Yuki Tsunoda, the best he can do is just, I think he needs to score points, basically. Go out there and score points. As long as he's scoring points, even if Liam Lawson's there and thereabouts, they'll sit there saying it's fine, he's scoring points. That's the main thing. There's no guarantee Liam Lawson would have scored the same points that he would have. So get yourself in the points and make sure that you're contributing. That's the best thing you can do from a Yuki Tsunoda point of view. So we'll wait and see if there's any sort of interesting information coming about Jack Doohan. The interesting thing about the crash is he said on the radio, he said, what happened there? So it sounds like there might have been an external issue. It might not have been his fault. He didn't understand, and that's the big thing. Everyone's sort of going, there's no sort of clear mistake really that he made, so it could have just been an issue with the car itself. That would be a saving grace for him, obviously, if it is. He's struggling at the moment, and he needs any sort of break he can get. And to be fair, if it was a car issue, it's not his fault, but not the time really for him to be having those kind of situations. So do you think he stays? Do you think he goes at the weekend if he doesn't get himself in the points? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.